presented by That Wolf from Hyrule Productions. Hello everybody, this is That Wolf from Hyrule, and welcome back to another episode of 16-Bit Friday. I'm playing Super Off-Road the Baja. Alright, so let me give a little introduction to this game. First, there was an arcade game called Off-Road, presented by Ivan Iron Man Stewart. So, in the late 80s, early 90s, this guy was a big deal. He was the champion of off-road racing, whether it was a closed indoor course or it was open country racing as this. So, to give an introduction to this game, what Off-Road the arcade game and Super Off-Road became later on the NES and the Super NES, it was indoors in a closed arena. And there was, you know, obviously this week, that week, etc., etc. It was on like it was on a rotating schedule style, where you'd compete in this one arena, then you'd go across the country to another arena, and then compete in that one. This is just open road, open country racing on legs of the Baja Peninsula. There was a race. This is a real race called the Baja 1000. And basically, you would compete for the fastest times of each leg of the race. And I think you had penalties of different things. And there were hazards. There were real-life hazards. Like, see all these cacti in the level. That actually was some of the hazards you could actually run into. And it would damage your truck. And as you see on the odometer here, you have 5 different little stats for your tires, lights, shocks, brakes, and engine, as well as your speed, how many nitros you have, your current rank, how long you've been driving on the leg, as well as how much distance you have driven on the leg of the race, as well as a damage meter, which we'll touch later on. So let's get into it. So I kind of already preset this up as I was on a practice run right before this. So let's do the Mexico 250. And like I said, this actually starts somewhere on the basically in the northern area of the Baja Peninsula, and goes all the way down to the end of the peninsula. This is a pretty grueling race. I was reading some stories about it, and you could have your truck pretty screwed up if you're not careful in this race. And I may or may not get to demonstrate the damage meter, but there's other things you can hit other than just environmental obstacles. For example, you can hit wildlife, the quad riders, as well as people that deduct any bonuses and cash you might get from your overall money pool. And I think you can win, if you don't pick up any of the money pickups, you could probably win like $800,000 on this race if you're consistently first place. And that's quite a lot of money to upgrade your truck with. And you will need it, because there goes $3,000. So the quad riders are the minimal amount of penalty you can get. And you don't actually kill them, I think you just knock them off. But there are things you can actually kill in this game. It's actually pretty horrific when you run them over. Yeah, there's cows all over the place later on in the game, and they actually moo before you run them over. It's pretty horrific. Like, see, there's a bighorn sheep there. If I run that over, that's like a $5,000 penalty. Because basically, you want to leave as little environmental impact in the areas you're racing in, you know, so that you're not ruining, you know, wildlife or forest life or whatever. So there's a lot of trees in this area, and there's also a lot of rocks. These really damage your truck. In fact, let me just hit one of these on purpose. I'll hit a stump. Ooh, yeah, there goes like a portion of my shocks. I think, and there goes some tires. And I also hit another quad rider. So basically, don't hit anything that's not the road, because otherwise it does a lot of damage. You know, if you've ever seen JonTron's video about flex tape and flex seal, that's a lot of damage. Yeah, that's not a lot of damage considering that Yeah, that's not really a lot of damage, considering this bar could go all the way up. And once that bar is filled, you are toast. Your truck is totaled, and you cannot race any longer, and you are sent back to wherever checkpoint you came from. So if you've only been through part of the race, and you're trying to beat the whole game, the last checkpoint is, I think, race number 5. Upon completion of race number 5, you get a checkpoint, and you got to go all the way back to that. That's quite a ways to continue if you lose on, like, say, leg 8 of the race, the last course. And that's a big hit. And I missed the money bag. That's alright. Oh, yeah. So if you're not fast enough, a lot of the other racers that are higher up in the ranks can actually bully you pretty well, and get you to drive off course, which it's challenging. Because then there'd just be total jerkbags. I think I'm almost at the end here. I want to get the... Oh, nope, I hit a tree. And I lost some tires. Basically, whatever thing gets damaged, you lose that bit of... Oh, wow, I'm actually where I'm supposed to be. You lose that stat. Your stats go down a little bit. So, for example, let me show you what I'm talking about. So you start with, I think, 5... I lost 2 points of tires, 2 points of shocks, and an engine. So let's go ahead and repair that. Oh, we don't really need brakes as much. Oh, we definitely need tires. We don't need lights right now, so if you don't need anything, it's good to sell something off. Let's go ahead and fill up my nitros really quick. And this timer is important because the longer you let it go, the more time is added to your actual overall time. Oh, nope. Shoot. So a lot of the smaller obstacles, like these small little rocks and the little bushes, they don't do nothing. They do nothing. I've tried to get myself out by running them over all day. Little stuff doesn't really damage you. What does damage you are the huge bushes, the boulders and cacti and trees and everything else. You can even hit a frickin' busted out car, which is pretty insane. So let me explain all the stats really quick. I was trying to get out of the pit stop as quickly as possible. So engine is basically your overall speed. You can increase your speed pretty dang significantly. Brakes are self-explanatory. They're how quickly you could stop. Tires increase your overall traction relative and help you turn quicker. Because I was turning pretty sluggish in the first leg of the race, especially because I lost two points of, or two points on the tires meter. And I just lost another one because I hit something. I didn't even exactly see what I hit. I think I hit a sign. But lights definitely come into play later on in the game. And there's somebody I don't want to hit. There we go. Lights come into play later on in the game because there's actually areas where it gets darker progressively as you go through the race. For example, in the I think the seventh leg of the race has a dimming effect, and the eighth leg of the race is miserable if you don't have any lights. It's completely dark and it's very challenging because you can sometimes not even see the road. It's nuts. I love how they programmed this game. It's fantastic. In fact, this is probably one of my top 100 must-play games on the Super Nintendo. Just because it's so much fun to play, and like when I was a kid I wanted a Toyota truck so I could take it off-roading and do shit like this. It was so cool. I was like, yeah, I really want to be an off-road racer when I grow up, and you know, here I am making YouTube videos about me talking about my past. That's what I love about these retrospective games, is because you kind of think, you know, back to your childhood, like what sort of mindset you had when you were playing these games. And that was mine. It was like, yeah, I want to do what this is, and I want an off-road truck later on so I can have fun in it. I mean, I probably still could. I mean, wouldn't be bad. I mean, plenty of my other friends have built like project vehicles, for example. Anyways, I think I didn't mention a few things about the stats. I think I forgot to mention the shocks while we're still doing the race. Basically, the shocks absorb impact Like, say for example, you go off a jump, and your damage meter increases slightly because you're still impacting the ground pretty hard. And basically, the more shocks you have, is the less damage happens when you hit the ground just from straight up impact. There's a lot of things that can damage a truck. In fact, I didn't get out of that completely unscathed. I had at least a half a meter of damage on the truck. And somehow I ended up with more money than Ivan Stewart, and I was a second behind him. So, here's how it goes. You have, out of 25, I think, players, out of 25 ranks, I can't remember, but there's a lot of other racers on the track, and I passed a lot of them up pretty quickly. Basically, you want to be in the top 5, and also your overall time, which is calculated in, and I'm literally just a second behind Ivan Stewart. Your overall time, then you have your bonus time for, you know, for basically completing the race, and then you have your individual leg time. So that took just 6 minutes and 25 seconds of, you know, gameplay to actually do it, but I'm sure that's more like 6 hours and 25 minutes or something like that. I don't know how it translates to real life, but that's how that works. And because I actually finished when I was doing my test run, I actually didn't. I broke down. So yeah, that's how that goes. And then you try to compete for the best time. You can actually get a pretty dang fast time if you use your nitros despairingly. So yeah, this is Super Off-Road the Baja, based on a real-life, grueling 1,000-mile race. I'm pretty sure there's been a lot of trucks that have broken down at some point from various wear and tear in the desert, because a lot of this mostly takes place in the desert. Not all of it is the foresty areas. There's a lot of desert areas with cliffs and rocks you can hit, and I've found myself getting broken down in the third leg of the race. And especially on the harder difficulties, when you increase the amount of damage you take by hitting things, you could be out in like 2 or 3 trees if you're not careful. And sometimes they're right next to each other, so for example, if you hit like 2 cacti in a row, you're done. Don't even think about restarting. Just throw down your control in disgust and just run off and say, I'm done! Done with it! Alright, well, I've been that Wolf from Hyrule. This is a 16-Bit Fridays. This has been Super Off-Road the Baja, and I'll see you next time. Thank you for watching. If you like what you saw, please click the button below to visit my channel. If you want to see the Lax Sweets episode, please click the video on the left. If you want to see the previous gameplay, click the video on the right. See you next time!